Bum, 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 bum. Welcome back to another episode of Dance Specific Talks. What's up, party people? And what's up, Sebastian?
What up? What up? Everything is going fantastic over here. Let's be honest. Life in paradise is
Ha!
amazing.
Hey, I just saw you being again interviewed on some kind of TV show. Talk to me. What the
Yeah,
hell is
that
happening?
that was actually the one I posted was actually my first ever TV interview in Creole. So it's actually a year old. But yeah, I have another one that I'm launching that I'm gonna release soon. But essentially, I got interviewed by a late night show here in Cape Verde where they are talking about, or where we were talking about, just the mental health, being of African descent and African diaspora, and moving back, quote, to Africa, and just sharing that whole journey. Talked about the projects I've done and yeah, things of that nature. It's really cool. It's fun to hear myself talk Creole because I remember when I was recording it, I'm like, that didn't feel good at all. And now a year later,
Mm.
I have to say that I'm fluent now. Um, 2 years into speaking, now I can see myself. I'm like, wait, but like I had only lived here a year. Like I'm doing great. So like I'm saying some things are wrong, but like no, I'm talking. Like I'm talking a year into this journey.
It's insane. I've been living in the Netherlands now for 6 years, and I still speak like super basic because obviously in Amsterdam it's just such an international bubble that
Yeah,
just the Dutch people also speak English to you all the time. It doesn't matter if you're trying to order something in Dutch. As soon as they hear that you're not, they're like, "Let me just ease your pain. Let's just go over to English." And I
yeah.
know that's not the situation in Cabo. So you're doing amazing. That's why I
Thank
shared a
you.
post because I'm like, what the hell? Like, who does that? Who moves to a country and within a year, not only like learn the language, contribute back to the society, learns about what issues are there that can be worked on, and also ending up on TV. That's why I was like,
Yeah,
yo,
it's good
like you're
fun.
putting us, the rest of us, to shame, like with the
putting pressure, putting pressure on us nomads. Yeah, last week or
ah.
last month rather, I did an hour live TV, only in Creole with two people. And it's harder when you do two people, right? It's because when it's one on one, you can kind of like, sneak your way around. But when it's two people and they speak a different accent, and yeah, it's good fun. It's good fun. I really
Yeah,
like
but
it.
it's also that, right? Like I don't think that I well, at least you taught me that first of all, most cable TV is in Portuguese.
Yeah,
And second of all, like it's not just one Creole
it's different. Yeah, and it's different and it's
from each
different.
island.
Exactly, and it's a lot. It's a big difference. So you have to learn the other accent in order for you to. It's not like, okay, just because I speak the northern accent, I understand the southern accent. That's not the case. Like you have to. Okay, you have to really learn the southern accent. Like, oh, okay, now I get it. Now I get it.
Hmm.
And I lived here.
It's
Yeah, and I lived there a month now. So that's all I needed. That's all the time I
damn.
gave myself.
But it's also funny because like I think that okay, so here comes the general dancers out there. I don't know if you can relate, but I feel like a lot of people that are good dancers was not necessarily that good in school
Yeah,
or didn't find school that interesting. And it's just funny how suddenly, because you are interested in learning something like dancing and you know what it takes to learn a new style, somehow you also just transfer that into like I can basically learn anything, and it's just about putting in the effort, and you know what it means to learn something because we keep on learning as dancers all the time. And yeah, I think it's just super impressive that you can go from, you know, being the guy who I wouldn't necessarily think would take up a language that fast to just suddenly go for it. Like it's hats off.
appreciate it. Appreciate it. I think I say it all the time that once you understand mastery in one thing, you understand how to do it in the other thing. And
Mm.
once you understand expertise in anything, whatever the case may be, whether that it's a once you've gone the journey from zero to something that we've done in dance, it's very easy to directly translate that and then understand, oh, okay, this is what I got to do. Like, I got to go all in. I got to practice every day. I got to expose myself to higher levels of conversations in this case, or like higher levels of skills in dancing, for example, where you have social dancing. Like, you have to social dance with the better artists, because then you understand it's like, oh, okay, this is how it's supposed to feel. Got it. Or you have to be in a cipher with high level people and to understand, okay, this is how it feels to be in the fire, right? And I also say this a lot, that and it's a good transition into the topic today, but I'm not scared. I don't think it's shame. I don't feel fear talking bad in Creole, right? Or in English for that matters. Like, we're doing a lot of vlogs now, and I hear myself talking. I'm like, oh, that's not how you say it. But it's not. English is one of 4 languages I speak, or like 5 languages that I can communicate in. So come on, like, what are we doing? Like, who's out there judging me? Like, what are we talking about? Like,
Yeah.
I'm not scared of messing up on live TV. I'm not scared of messing up on stage. It's just, this is what I did my best, right?
Yeah, and I think that is a perfect transition into today's topic, where we're going to talk about courage. What does it mean to be courageous? What does it mean to be brave? And we're also going to touch on the opposite of, like, what is stopping courage is usually worrying, right? It's worrying that something can go wrong, you will look bad, you will embarrass yourself. That's kind of like a little bit the opposite of the spectrum. And yeah, I just feel like this is the perfect topic for today. So with that being said, courage, what does that mean for you? Let's start just somewhere.
Yeah, so for me, I think and it's definitely because I read it somewhere, but courage for me is doing the thing if you are scared. It means that you're doing it anyway. Because if you're not feeling, like, courage without fear is just any act. But courage, or doing the act with fear or despite fear, doing it anyway, that for me is courage, right? So, and it's very interesting that because it's almost like a paradox, because again, you cannot be courageous without fear, but at the same time, once you've done that one thing enough times, it becomes just what you do, right? So if we are again referring back to this to my interview in Creole, right? Like, of course I feel some type of, like, I'm nervous before, right? I never spoken to the host. I don't really know what dialect she speaks. I know that she's not Cape Verdean either. She's Cape Verdean, but she's not born in Cape Verde. So that is also like, okay, like, what type of dialect is she gonna speak in? What's gonna be the topics? And it's live TV. So of course I'm nervous, but at the same time, I'm not sure if I can label myself as courageous, because it's not that I feel fear, right? It's not that, and it's the same thing if you draw another parallel to while you go up on stage. It's like, oh, you're so courageous, you're so brave. I'm like, am I really? Like, or am I just so used? Or am I? Yes or no? I'm not sure. Or is it that I am so used by now that being outside of, or feeling or doing the things despite being scared, that I have almost forgotten that feeling. Did that make sense? Like, I've almost forgotten the feeling. I've done it so many times. I'm constantly outside of my comfort zone. I'm constantly reinventing myself, putting out new content, putting out other videos, putting out photos, standing up on stage, doing new other projects, different languages. I'm so used to that by now. So I'm not even sure if it's courage anymore, or if it's just what I do, or that I've been doing it so much that I've forgotten how. Did that make sense?
Yeah, sure. I think I saw a video the other day about a guy that talked about, like, having that we have to remind ourselves sometimes about how it felt to be like a teenager. He was talking about, like, once upon a time, I thought it was unobtainable, unreachable, to have a big sneaker collection. And then I grew up, and like now I have it, and I don't even give like a lot of kind of credit or thoughts to it. But actually, we should remind ourselves that what we have today, what we have accomplished, and what we have done in our life was once upon a time unthinkable, unreachable, and unobtainable in a
Yeah.
lot of ways. And I think it's only then that you're realizing, oh, I made it into my life's mission to overcome those steps, or to like actually push through. And whatever, as we say, learning a language or learning a dance style, it's practicing to just do it anyway, to figuring it out as long as we go, rather than have like a 10-step plan before we do something. And sometimes it also means that you have to accept that winning is combined with losing, and that when you are trying these things and you maybe don't know how you're going to figure it out, sometimes you fuck up in language, sometimes you're making a mistake on the dance floor, or sometimes your investments goes to shit. But further down the line, you will always know why, and you will always see it come back if you just kind of keep going.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I hear you, and I'm thinking to myself, like, yeah, when did I stop feeling nervous about teaching, for example? When did I stop feeling nervous about teaching on my own,
Yeah.
or like leading or putting myself out there? And it's like, hey, I'm having a course, or like I'm having a workshop. I think you should come. Like I have something to share, or
Yeah.
you know, it's a bit of a, I guess, vulnerable position to put yourself in, because you're like, yes, you can have expectations, because I will probably meet them, and hopefully even exceed your expectations.
Yeah.
So yeah, I hear you. Courage, brave, or is it just something you can just train?
Because I think you can practice being courageous. I think being courageous is a skill. I don't think that's something you're born with or not. I think it is a skill, and it's a moving. It's not only a skill, it's also on a spectrum, because that spectrum is constantly moving, right? Like I am more courageous stepping up on stage now in January, because it's been a year since I was up on stage last time. But in 2018, I did this every weekend. So then it wasn't even courage. And it's just like, but I'm Sebastian, this is what I do. But now that sense of who I am have changed. And my exposure to that thing have lessened. And as a result of that, I feel more proud of myself doing it, because like, hey, look, like I haven't done I've done it once in 2 years. It's still who I am, still what I do. However, it requires more courage on my end. Right? And all of these things are, again, it's on a spectrum, it's moving, right? If I looked at myself in just when I came to Cape Verde 2 years ago, and I look at because when I came to Cape Verde, I didn't speak a word of Creole. Now, fast forward just 2 years later, I've done a TEDx performance in Creole, in the House of Parliament. I've been speaking about mental health in the House of Parliament in Creole. I've done several TV interviews, talking to, like my life is in Creole here. And if I looked at what I set out to accomplish, I've done exactly that. So did it take courage to get there? Yeah, sure. But at some point, it also becomes who you are. And just, I think that's kind of my mindset to things, right? It's almost like an alter ego. And I like to draw this parallel to, I listened to an interview once with Beyonce where she's saying, I'm a small town, or like I'm a country girl from Texas. I'm not this big, sexy machine that everybody thinks I am. So when I perform, I had to create a character, an alter ego. I had to create Sasha Fierce in order for me to be that person. And or if you look at Gladiator, the movie, when the main character sits down and he takes the dirt and he smells the dirt right before he goes into battle. So you put yourself in an alternative state. And in my coaching practice, we call that, or I call that rather, power phrase, which is something that you say to yourself to go into the zone, put yourself into zone. And I just think I'm that guy, you know, like I say it all the time, like I'm him, like this is what I do, like a stage. This is what I do. There's nothing else that I know that I'm good at than entertaining on stage. Like I've done that so many times. So is it really courage, or is it just what I do? And it's hard. It's hard. Like I feel courageous or not, I think it's awesome. I think that's the baseline.
I'm gonna challenge you because I'm gonna challenge myself on something. And so our dear friend Anush, she has a course right now, and in her feminine movement course, she has an exercise that I'm also gonna do with my students in the next upcoming course that I'm starting in November. And it is to write a letter to yourself, but it's to the Sasha Fierce version of yourself. And the aim of this letter is to explain what that version of yourself makes you feel. So I would love to challenge you to the next week, and also myself, to write a small text about how this next version of yourself, not the version we're used to, because we are obviously used to, as you say, like be on a podcast or interviews or this and that, but what is the next thing? You know, what are some of the things you maybe haven't tapped into yet? Because there's always a next, right? There's always, I mean, you have already reached your movie ending, because I remember you saying your movie ending was to move to Cabo and make a living where you can actually live there and be on the beach and swim with the turtles, you know? And
every day, one swim per day.
I mean, you're in the La Gina, and I just think that it would be interesting for me to do this exercise, but I would also love to hear your letter to yourself and this kind of elevated version of a person that we are on our way to, but we are like just tapping into. It doesn't have to be long, but a little
challenge
text
accepted.
next week. Challenge accepted. And I would love to encourage every listener to kind of do the same. Write a letter and talk to that person and how she or he or it makes you feel. It can be like, when I see you walk down the street, ooh, you're giving me goosebumps, like your aura is shining, your presence is so captivating. Whatever you want to describe it as, try to be as detailed as possible. Boom.
I like it.
Yeah.
I like it. How has fear and courage been part of your development, not only as a mother, but also as a first time in your career, I'd like to say, as a solo dancer?
It was definitely a process for me to go from crew dancer to solo dancer, because in between I had like couple dancer, and then now I'm like I do couple dancing and I do group also, but I teach now more only solo, and it's a big shift. I needed to go through a different journeys, because I do believe that working in teams are so beneficial for many reasons, because you can reach more people, because you have more personalities within a group that are relatable. So someone that would look, in my crew Fuse Fam, somebody that would, look at me or look at Mally or Anush or Michelle, we would speak to different kinds of people. And you just want that as a group. You just want to like be able to show that like you're not just one kind of person. You can be several people and still reach or achieve a bunch of things, you know. But it was a process for me to go from always thinking about crew, always thinking about how I can help other people in teaching and in organizing, to what if I have to do it all myself, you know? And I think the biggest fear for me was, do I have enough? Am I enough? Do I have enough knowledge? Am I enough to cover all of the things that I used to have several crew members covering? And um, it was hard, because I do believe that I am pretty humble, even though I could come off in my persona as T-zer on stage, T-zer in demos, as super like fearless and all of that. I still have a very humble side to me, which is like, we are all teachers, and who am I to tell you how to live your life or how to dance differently? But I had to kind of sit with myself and realize that like I have been teaching since I was 15, and that is about 18 years. And I have gone from everything from teaching kids and form their development into university level, both in Sweden and in Amsterdam. And I know a lot about the pedagogic aspect of being a teacher, but I also do feel that I am actually not someone else when I teach. I am 100% myself today. And it took a long time to get there, because I was indeed people pleasing along the way. So when I was teaching dance hall, I was like caught up in this very like, oh, I need to say every step correctly, and I need to refer to every group correctly, and I need to like make sure that everyone knows that we can never look like Jamaicans, and we can, and you know, there was just so much pressure on like, I had to teach it into respect of another culture, which is fair and very important. But then I came into Kizomba, and it was like, now I also have to teach the respect between each other, men and women. I have to teach women how to not feel unsafe, and I have to teach men how to embrace a woman safely. Like, there was just a completely different way. And now what I do is like way more connected to the spiritual part, and I need to dare to be that part of myself too, and show that I am not just here to teach dance techniques, but also actually more personal development, and dare to do that, and dare to show that I care about those things too. So I have overcome a lot of fears, and today I do like meditations within my dance class. Like, who am I to teach meditation? I never took a course in how to do that, but I feel like I just try and it works. And I had to also overcome the fear of like imposter syndrome.
And I
That was
think,
a lot, but yeah.
yeah,
Does
but
that
I
make
think,
sense?
yeah, but I think that is, it definitely makes sense. And I think that is two sides of courage, right? Because you have to, when you went on your journey to teach dancehall, then it's okay. Now I'm courageous enough to represent another people's culture in my country. And at the flip side of that, I think I'm probably the flip side of that, because when I've had hip hop legends like pioneers in hip hop dance telling me, "Hey, what you're dancing is not hip hop," and for me that's cool. Like, I never wanted to impress you anyway, so cool. Then if you're telling me that's not hip hop, awesome. I'm just gonna do my thing then. And me sticking to doing my thing has helped me to travel across the world. Right now, I still pay homage and just explains like, I got this from this style, I got this from that style, but what you're seeing is what I refer to as isolation or body isolation, and that is not a style. Absolutely not. It's just what I do. And if you want to continue to do that, then come hang out, right? So there is both sides of the coin when it comes to courage within dancing, because one's representing one's culture, or two, representing only yourself. One can't say what is more courageous than the other, right? And also what you're saying when it comes to teaching, just like, but you're teaching meditation. Yeah, why wouldn't you? Like, again, we spoke about this the other day when it comes to, how do you say that, cultural appropriation. It's like, oh, but you need to know there is this tendency inside of dancing, and I'm part of it as well. That you need to know the culture that you're taking from. It's like, one part of me says yes, another part of me says no, you don't. No, you don't. You can just listen to hip hop music because you like to listen to hip hop music. You can just dance bachata zouk or bachata sensual or bachata, whatever you want to call it, just because you like it. And you don't need to know about, or you like the music and you like the dance style. You don't need to go to prison just because you don't know that it comes from Dominican Republic. Same thing with Kizomba. And I'm Cape Verdean, right? And we Cape Verdeans, we love to say that Kizomba is our thing. But UNESCO it literally just became official by Angola as one of their cultural dances. But we own it like it's ours. So, but at some point, I hear it and I understand it, and I also believe in it to some certain extent. But at the same time, no, you can't just like hip hop because you like hip hop.
Yeah, and I think
tricky.
that is also tapping into to the other side of the spectrum, which is the worrying.
You go.
The worrying of, am I expressing this thing correctly? I mean, you can express whatever you want. It starts to become complicated when you start teaching it, obviously, because then suddenly you have some kind of responsibility to pass on the information as close to the source as possible. However, worrying about it too much is also to prevent yourself from trying and failing. I have interviewed so many dancers now in this podcast, and everyone was a beginner. Like, I know that one of the biggest names within the kizomba scene from the beginning was Laurent. Laurent and Adeline was the first kind of teachers, French teachers, that also showed a lot of things online next to Albir and Sarah Lopez. And they were some of the first people to dance on flats. Now, this was like a huge thing that like the girl wasn't in heels, but they were just showcasing a completely different style. And when I interviewed him, he was like, but I came from like crumping. Like if I hadn't started teaching the little things I knew within Kizomba, my area where I was teaching, we would never have started a community. And I'm so happy he says that, because I think sometimes we look at like these masters and we forget that everyone was a beginner. At some point, they were also worrying about, am I teaching the correct things? And if they wouldn't have started, there would never be a growth within communities and styles.
Yeah.
And I think we can also speak about that. I mean, like, we come from like super small places, and if none of us took a chance on starting to teach what the little we knew, we would never have classes or dance schools, and we could never bring guest teachers that could then showcase like, this is actually how it's done, so the worrying, as we talked about this week, worrying is like worshiping the problem, to give energy and focus to the problem rather than to other things. When I sent that to you, how did that kind of land within you?
I mean, I've had years where I struggled a lot with anxiety and panic anxiety, and it comes from worrying. You're worrying about the future, whether that is, there's this, I have one of the leading psychologists here in Cape Verde is a good friend of mine, and we had these conversations, and she tells me that worrying is about No. Anxiety is about worrying about the past. Depression is about overthinking the past. And there is some truth to that. I know it's obviously not black and white, but there's definitely some truth to that. And when you're worshiping that problem, it becomes your master. And that's what you become addicted to. And I have students now that I'm coaching. And some of them are caught in this loop of worshiping the future or worshiping the potential disappointment or the potential negative aspect of the future. And it's very interesting. It's very, very interesting because we spoke about this in the other episode, but when you understand that it all comes down to perspective, everything changes. Because if you're worshiping the problem, you're giving it so much energy, so much energy. And that is my issue with some of the modern psychology, that if you're having trauma, that you have to dig it up and you have to live in that trauma, and then you have to live in that.
I don't hear you anymore. Do you hear me? Yeah, that's so weird. Let's see. Ding, ding, ding.
What about that?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Better or the same?
Yeah, better or good, same. Yeah.
Same. Cool. So my issue with some of the modern psychology is the fact that you have to constantly dig up old traumas. That the way to go to move away from the old traumas is to keep staring at it. And then you have to keep staring at it. And they have to keep staring at it. They have to keep staring at it. And it's, at what point do you move away from that and stop looking into that? When do you stop worshiping the problem? And when do you start living in the solution? This thing happened to me. I got abused as a child. Now I'm in my 50s. Okay, got it. Now we have looked into it. Okay, next week we come back. We look into it again. Now, next week, again, we keep staring at it. We keep staring at it. We keep staring at it. We are worshiping that thing. We're giving so much energy to the thing that have happened, right? Versus, okay, but this is where I'm going. This is where I'm going. This thing have happened to me, but this is where I'm leaving now, right? And I can feel the same thing with just me, when I did my TEDx, I'm referring to a very, very specific time in my life that happened almost a decade ago. But when I did my TEDx, I was so focused on living in that, because that was also the same time as I'm starting to go out. I practice my TEDx talk on different schools. I'm out talking about mental health issues at the universities. So I'm always talking about my anxiety, and I'm living in that, and I have to go into that space and talk about it and share it with others. And we keep talking and na. So it came to a point that I'm like, but I'm worried. Like, I'm more worried now than I was just a couple of months ago because I keep living in it. So to close that circle of, there has to come a point where you stop worshiping the problem and moving away from it. Easier said than done, of course.
Do you think that the moving away from it is like, okay, we looked at it and I now understand why I get triggered by certain things, and that's where I need to take accountability and not assuming that it's the fault of other people, but actually something within me, and that when I take the accountability of that by being aware of it, working on it, maybe even exposing myself to it and somehow like making sure I'm dealing with it better. Do you think that that's the way to like move out of it?
It's different for everyone, right? And that's the beautiful thing with coaching, that it depends on what works. But yes, once you've looked at it long enough and it's like, okay, but I acknowledge it, I understand that this thing this splash in my waters has ripple effects on it, and those ripple effects is the reality that I'm living right now. It might be that I am triggered by certain words, or I'm triggered by certain actions, but at some point I need to move forward. At some point I can't live in that thing. The panic, anxiety, and the suicidal thoughts and the depression that I've dealt with, it's not who I am. It's what I've been through. And I've been through them, and I've grown through them. So that is not longer what is defining me. And that insight is just gold, because that insight is going to tell you, but if I am going to, whatever I'm going through right now, I am going to come out of the other end of that as somebody who went through that thing, right? I'm dealing with a lot of anxiety and panic and depression right now. Once you've come out of that, you're going to come out so much stronger. You're going to come out as somebody who have done that, who have gone through
who
that.
have conquered, like
who have conquered.
Yeah, survived.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And it's again, it's about perspective. Because if you're gonna, I can sit here today and I have so many reasons to not be who I am today. I'm dyslexic. I've done 2 knee surgeries. I've dealt with panic, anxiety, suicidal thoughts. But here I am reading out loud in front of people in a language I wasn't even born as. I'm born in a foreign, like there are so many things against me. And if that is the narrative I choose to live my life in, that is going to be my reality. And that is the thing with worrying, because if you focus on worshiping the problem, that is going to be your truth. But if you focus on like, look, like I've conquered this thing, then I can conquer that thing. And now I conquered that thing. Yeah, well, now I can conquer that thing. And now I can conquer that thing. Oh, I failed. Okay, cool. Let me try again. Yeah. Oh shit, I failed. Second time. Okay, cool. Let me try a third time. Boom. Now then I can conquer that thing.
I think that it's funny because I did a workshop on fear a few years ago with a dancer called Sabu, and we were really digging deep into how to identify what you are creating as an obstacle for yourself, because there are things that happens in life that you have no control over.
Yeah.
You might fall in love with who you think is the love of your life, and you see yourself 3 years later battling a lawsuit of divorce. Like you have no idea. Sometimes you got to take a risk, and it might not always pay out well. However, in this workshop, we made people say we wanted them to basically admit their biggest fear. And when they had admitted their biggest fear, we then had them say, and what's the worst thing that can happen?
There you go.
And then what's the worst thing that can happen after that? So for example, my biggest fear back then was, if I have a child, will I be excluded? Like, will I be excluded as a dancer? Will I be counted out? Because now I go from female teacher to mom, like, will I not be invited? Will I be seen as she automatically has no time because she's a mom now, or that she has other things to focus on? Like, it was really a big fear of mine. I think that's why it took me 10 years to have a child with my partner, also because it was on me, and I was putting a lot of obstacles in front of that. And it was so big for me to, during that workshop, say those things and say, what's the worst thing that can happen? The worst thing that can happen is that people don't invite me to parties anymore, or people stop booking me, or people maybe will see me as less of a dancer and more as, like, quote unquote, just a mom. And then it's like, okay, and what's the worst thing that can happen then? Oh, I will be lonely, or I will feel excluded. And what's the worst thing that can happen then? Yeah, that I will just sit home all day. And what's the worst thing that can happen then? And so we kept on digging and digging and digging until you're realizing most of the times it's like an irrational fear.
And it's not that
And
bad.
we are
Yeah.
just, it's just not that bad. And how can I make sure that I overcome my fear, do this thing that I'm fearful of doing, and having a plan of what's the, okay, so if I have a child, now I have a child, and so I can say by experience that, yeah, people did not stop booking me. Actually, it was the reverse. People actually have booked me more now than before. And I feel like I meet more friends now than before. And I have just realized that if you just keep on, showing to people that I am exactly the same person and I have an extension of myself, which is my daughter now, that people will keep inviting, keep counting you in, and they will also learn that a child can just be somebody you also bring along. It doesn't have to change your life completely. And so, yeah, I feel like if I could give an exercise to people listening to this episode, it would be like, what are you worrying about? What is the biggest fear? And what is the worst thing that can happen? And keep on asking yourself that until you come to the conclusion. Because if you come down to, I'm fear of being lonely, then that's where you need to like start. And like, okay, but why do I have a fear of being lonely? Then that is not the problem of me creating a company or having a child or dating this person, or it's something else behind that.
It comes down to self view and public appearance. So I don't see myself only as a dancer. I don't see myself only as somebody who's going to the gym. And sometimes other people label you as that. So I had this conversation with a family member of mine, and we were talking about training. I'm like, hey, you have to start picking up your training. This is you have to. There is no, this is what we do. This is how we take care of ourselves. It's not a yeah, it's not a maybe. This you have to. Whatever your plan is, if give me a 6 months plan. It doesn't need to be right now, but within 6 months, you need to be here. This is where you should be, minimum. And we spoke about it, and he tells me, it's like, I wonder what will happen if you didn't train for 2 weeks. And I said, nothing. Like training doesn't define who I am. Movement doesn't define who I am. It's how you define, it's probably, however, how you define who I am is the biggest point of reference that you have about me. But me skipping training or missing out training because I'm ill or injured, that has happened several times. And doesn't define who I am. But in the public eye, it does. So people like to put you in a box, and that's cool because it helps people to navigate in a, most people think, very two-dimensional, right? And that is completely fine. Everybody don't need to dig deep in every conversation, right? Like we wouldn't be able to function. But the self-view versus public appearance is very, very important, because that's one of my dance teacher, an old mentor of mine. He taught me this. He says, like, dance doesn't define who I am. I'm good without dancing. There's gonna come a time when I'm not dancing, and I'm good without that. So it's like you're saying, it's like, okay, but I'm pregnant. Okay, I become a mom. What happens? That I don't get booked? Okay, cool. Fuck it. Well, what's gonna happen? Well, I probably need to change, and then I will have another incredible career in another area of my life, and that's awesome. But what will I keep dancing? Yeah, but you keep dancing at home. Yeah, but what about the stage? You will find other ways. You will find other ways to be on stage. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. There's constant progression, constantly keep winning. So rather have that as a trait. So my self-view is not that, oh, I'm a trainer, oh, I'm a dancer, or I'm a coach. I keep progressing.
Yeah.
I just know that
and I think
keep going.
No, it just reminded me again about that that other video that I saw the other day, which was like, yeah, like you just need to not wait anymore, really. Like, yeah, because you might wait a little bit until whatever that is gonna supposed to happen, that is gonna start your thing, and you will wait, and it will be 1 year, 2 years. You might even wait 20 years for this thing to pop off, right? Like, a friend of mine, her boyfriend has a like music career, and it just hasn't popped off, you know? So when are you going to either be okay with this music that you're doing is for self purpose, and you would use it as a therapeutic way of getting your thoughts out, and it has nothing to do with how many people that are listening. That's one way of keep doing music, and realizing that maybe I won't have you know a Kendrick Lamar career, you know? Or do you actually, after 10-15 years into it, realize, you know what, maybe I'm stuck in this dream that actually has expired, because either I haven't changed it or adapted to who I am, or to what touches other people or what resonates with other people. But I am stuck in this place where, like, I just want to be this music artist that has like that just has a career where I can be this guy, you know? And I wonder, like, in this video, he was like, you need to like move on, either move on, change it, adapt, but otherwise you're going to find yourself 20 years from now being stuck in the same thing, that like, I just want to obtain this one goal. And actually, maybe you're scared of saying that that dream of yours has expired, and that you could do so many other things with your time and effort, but you're just so hung up on not giving up on this one thing that you are blocking yourself from other opportunities and other ways and other creative outlets. So there's the scale of like, do I have the courage and bravery to keep moving on, or do I have the courage and bravery of realizing that I am more than my dancing?
And just
I am
one
more.
dimension
Yeah.
of your dancing. Take your friend, for example.
Yes.
I'm going to become I want to be a rapper. You are a rapper. You're rapping, you know, like you are making music. Nice, but you're not paying the bills with it, so you need to do other things. But oh, no, I want to do it like this. I want to do it like this. It's like, no, but you don't know how it's going to manifest itself. I had a friend of mine, he said, I want to become an artist. I want to become a movie star. I'm like, well, start putting out content. He's like, what do you mean? I want to do Hollywood. I'm like, well, build an audience. It's like, yeah, but that's not what I want to do. I'm like, it's a way there. It's a way for you to get there. It's one way of it's one side of that very complex thing. You want to become an artist, got it. But you're so hung up in becoming this very specific type of artist that you can't even see the other things around you, right? I want to become a dancer. There are so many different ways of teaching. There are so many different ways of being a professional. Teaching, solo, crew, couples, festivals, workshops, online, whatever. There are so many different ways. So don't just focus on like a narrow view that you decided, I had this very, very specific dream this many years ago, and I will keep holding on to that. But the flip side of what I just said is that everybody that, like now, we're talking about your friend, right? His career hasn't popped up. Let's say he's 15 years into his career, 20 years into his career, 25 years into his career. It becomes like, ugh, what is he doing? Like he's throwing away his life. And we are right 99% of the times. No, we're going to be right 100% of the times until we're not right anymore. And he makes that one song and he becomes a billionaire. And then he becomes the success story. Wow, look, he just held on to his dream for 25 years. And he's just been doing this. He's been living in his mom's basement for 25 years. And wow, what a success story. Hold on to your dreams. And we were right about him being a failure 100% of the time until we were not. And that's the trick shot. That's the tricky part.
That is the trick shot. It's a tricky shot, because you just don't want to end up in your 50s looking back and being like, ooh, like I put that career shot over everything. Like, yeah, I neglected my family, I lost my relationship, I haven't spent time with my kids, I have like actually been so focused on my own thing that I have missed out on all of these other things. Like, it's just hard. It's just hard. Like, we are sitting here, we don't have the answers. We're just discussing them now. But it's just that tricky way of like, do you keep going? Or do you expand your views? However, I do feel like if you start feeling bitter and you start looking around and blaming the system, blaming the industry, blaming, you know,
Take some responsibility. Stop.
the
Take some
yeah.
responsibility.
But that's I can say for myself that there's been moments where I have been like, but why am I not, getting booked more? I do believe that I'm a good teacher, that I create good content, and that everyone that has ever taken my class have actually felt like they're getting something out of it. But I could be bitter and be like, oh, it's because I don't have a partner, or because I don't have the connections within the organizational people
Whatever.
that I should have, whatever. Or I can create my own workshops. And I think that that's where I've landed now in my career, where it's like, yeah, I needed to start looking why things are not happening for me like it's happening for other people. And I just needed to start being like, but what is it that I actually want to create? I don't want to live a lifestyle where I go to festivals every weekend. I don't want to do that. I'm missing out on my family. I actually love living in Amsterdam. I don't feel necessarily that I want to be jet lagged every week and do what is required for you to do if you are a high level booked artist. I actually do not want to trade that. So why am I comparing with that, and why am I not creating what I actually want and putting it out there? And if the right people feel called to it, then I can just stay here and do amazing things here.
Very, very few people that live that festival lifestyle, traveling every weekend, likes it. Very
Yeah.
few of them. Very, very few. How do I know? I coach them.
Yeah, and I interviewed them, so I
Yeah,
also heard many
very few
stories.
people like that. Very few people. A
Yeah,
lot of people feel forced into that lifestyle, or forced
yeah, and
to
very
stay in that.
lonely.
Very lonely,
Yeah,
and forced again because that's their self-image. Their the public's view of them have become their self-image. I can never find a partner because all the people think that I am this high-level dancer. If that's the narrative that you keep playing in your mind, that's going to be your truth.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So, with that being said, do you want to draw a card?
I think it's time to move that soul, no?
It's
I think
time to
it's
move
time
that
to move that soul.
soul.
Move that soul, teaser. What is Move That Soul? The
Oh my
original
God.
edition. Plug it.
The original edition. I'm actually going to sell another copy tomorrow. I'm super happy about it. It's
Ooh.
a game that is designed for dancers from any style, any level. You can be beginner dancer, you can be a professional dance teacher. It does not matter. It has two parts. One part which has questions, everything from entertaining to deep, and that deck of cards is called Ask. And you can use it to get to know each other, people you are in the same group with, or people you just met. Like, it's really, really fun. And I am almost 100% sure that you have never asked some of these questions. And then you have another deck of cards, which is called Move. And these are guidelines for you to get out of your comfort zone and into creative space as a dancer. It doesn't matter if you're a hip hop dancer, a couple dancer, ballet dancer. And the way you play it is, for example, if you and I would play it, is that I take a move card. And for example, this one is called Perfect Me Time. So then I have to freestyle what I feel is perfect me time. It might be that I wake up in the morning and I have to kind of dance through my day, which is a perfect me day. But you pick the music. So not only do I have to challenge my creativity, you are also helping me challenge my musicality. And you can challenge two people at the same time to do the same card. You can play it in various ways, and it's called Move That Soul.
And I am now going to draw a ask card. out of the 70 different ask cards and ask T-zer. And it says, what makes you feel free?
Today I would say that what makes me feel free, and I'm gonna say it within dancing, is the liberty of dancing without sticking to one style. Today, my expression of being free is when I can move my body in with whatever moves that I can throw in, whacking in there, or kizomba, or dance hall, and just vibe to the music that I'm hearing without thinking I need to keep to this structure. Like today, for me, that is the ultimate freedom.
Beautiful.
Okay, and I'm gonna ask you, talking about fear, what do you fear regretting?
What do I fear regretting? I I think I will. I think regret. I I I think regret is inevitable on your deathbed. I think it's inevitable. I think there will be a time. There is I think it's a double-edged sword, and I think that's my fear, and that I've came to acceptance with it. And it's that I didn't live my life full out. And I think my biggest fear in life is the realization that I didn't live it full out. But I also think that there's going to be an acceptance of like, wow, I really did that shit. Like I really swung. I fucking did it. I really swung at this thing called life as hard as I could. And I went for it. But I also think that on your deathbed is going to be, wow, like I have so much more to give. I have so much more to give. It's like, I just wish I had like 5, 10 more years. Like this thing about the future still excites me, you know? So, but that is definitely my biggest fear in life is being on my deathbed and thinking, wow, I could have done so much more. And that's also how I measure my days. That's also how I measure it's almost like I measure my happiness with that. Well, it's not happiness, but how much I'm living in my purpose. Because I say this to David, who I live with, my best friend. I say it a lot. It's like, if I die tomorrow, don't worry about me. Like I fucking had an amazing life. Like I've accomplished more within these 33 years than most people have ever done, or more than I thought I would done. So don't worry about it. I'm gonna live a long life. So I'm not escaping. But if something would have happened, just know, don't worry about me. My life was amazing.
Yeah, celebrate me, because you don't have to grieve.
No. Look at all the awesome things I've done. Like I've lived in a super extraordinary life. And I'm very grateful for that. And it's gonna continue to become even more amazing, and more crazy things are gonna happening. And I'm just grateful for even being here. And
can you just describe that you also kind of are being on your deathbed every 3 to 6 months?
I actually thought I need to do that. I need to do it. I need to do it like this month. So the first time I came to Cape Verde the first time I came to my island rather was in 2019. And exactly during that time I signed up for a mentorship program called Down and Dirty by Michael Jordan's personal trainer for 15 years. So Michael Jordan's coach for 15 years. He's called Tim Grover. He's also the author of the book Relentless and Winning, and the book Jump Attack. And in that course, it was me and a bunch of other, I don't remember how many we were, but 200-300, I believe, entrepreneurs. And as a result of me doing that the first season, I got a scholarship from them to do the second season. So I got a scholarship to join the second season, and then I did season 4 and season 5, I believe. And one of the first challenges that team gave us was what he called Death Race. And the original version of it is that you put on your best outfit, the best outfit you have in your house. If you're a woman, you put makeup on. If you're a man, you shave, fix your hair, go get a haircut if you need to before. Best dress, shoes, whatever. All of it. Suit. And then you get into a room, the darkest room in your house. And then you lay down on the ground. And then you then you go back in time. You go back in increments, 5 years at a time. So I'm 33, well, let's say 30, and then you go back. Okay, but so from 30 to 25. What have I done? What have I accomplished? And who was I? And what do I regret? And from 25 to 20, you do the same thing. 20 to 15, 15 to 10, to 5 to whatever. And you go back in life and you see patterns. So for me, it was because I've been moving around so much and jumping between countries. It was like, okay, but where was I there? Where did I go? Where did I live? Oh, I lived in that place. Okay, but then I was focused on this thing. Okay, but then I was focused on that thing, and I was focused on this thing. And then you go back in time and you come to peace with that. And then you go into the future, the next 5 years. Who do you want to be? And what are you burying? Like, what part of you do you kill is dead, and you leave that in the grave? And that's again why you're laying flat on the ground in a dark room, because it symbolizes a grave. And then when you're done, you're done. You know when you're done. And then you go out of the room, and then you have all of these different insights. And I've been doing that religiously every 4 to 6 months since 2019. And instead of going back 5 years into time, I just go back these last months. So I did this right before I went to University of Macomb, Texas School of Business, right? So I did it right before then in June. And now I'm going to do it again. Now it's now coming up November. I'm going to do it one more time. And it's so insightful. It's so insightful. It's one of my favorite practices.
I think it's really cool. And I try to describe that sometimes when I'm like, I have a few very stoic people in my life, you being one of them. And I find that sometimes it's a bit hard for people to believe or to understand stoicism and the rationalization of things and the practices like this. And I always take this example as like, no, but they're like, imagine that you're dying every 4th month, like that's how much this person is checking in and going over their life. And that's why you don't see them get very upset, by things. They kind of just accept, take it in, move on. Because like, what can you control? What can you not control? And you focus on what you can control and you move on. And yeah, it can be very hard for people to accept that, like, it can come off as emotionless and very tactical, but it's actually just a way of taking accountability. And
most people don't dare to look in the mirror.
Yeah.
Most people have a hard time looking into the mirror. I journal every day. Been doing that for the last 4 years. I do this thing. I have deep conversations. I do death race, rather. I have deep conversations with people that check in on me. I have mentors. A lot of people have a real hard time looking into the mirror and accepting that the reality that they existing in is their fault or their
Creation. Yeah.
Creation. Yeah. Yeah.
Mm, yeah.
Awesome.
Thank you. I think
Bliss.
that we have covered a lot
No.
within one episode. um, Again, if you are listening to this and you have listened all this long into the podcast, we are doing this for you. Please comment, rate, come with suggestions. Do you have any topics or any people you want to have us interviewing? We are very open and we are creating all of this for you to listen to, learn, and hopefully give some food for thoughts.
Some food for thoughts.
Yes.
That's very well said, T-zer. Guys, we appreciate you. Thank you so much. Check out movethatsoul.com. Go on dance specific training. Go please share our stuff, and remember, as always, we love you. By Dancers for Dancers.
Boom.
Bliss.
Don't forget to click subscribe, comment below, and give us a rating or review. We have a Facebook page, YouTube page, and we are on Spotify, Google Podcasts, iTunes, and all the other podcast platforms. We also have an Instagram, so don't forget to tag us in your favorite episode and share it with the world, because we read all of it.